Welcome to Moneyline MMA coverage of UFC 285. A long-awaited bout between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane is upon us this Saturday, March 4th, at the UFC arena in Las Vegas, T-Mobile. This is going to be crazy, Jose. One of the few times we have discussed a fight and our thoughts on the fight ahead of our recording, just because when this was announced, who in the MMA world wouldn't discuss a matchup like Jon Jones returning and Ciryl Gane, the current the belt is currently up in the air, up for grabs. No one's currently the champion, but I think we can all agree right now, outside of Jon Jones, that Ciryl Gane is the clear and far away best heavyweight that the UFC has. So excited to see this matchup come to fruition. But regardless, we're going to start with our usual weight system. So going with what will be my most confident pick this week. We have 5 picks coming in at you, and my 5 weight, my most confident, come get your money pick is going to be Bo Nickal. I'm sure most of you guys saw this coming. Bo Nickal is currently a minus 2,200 favorite against Jamie Pickett. This is in the middleweight division, and Jose, it's not even close. But before we get into it, what do you got for this one?
Yeah, so for this one, I myself do have Bo Nickal, and I have him at my 2-weight. And the only reason I have him there is because if it was another card, he would be higher up. But there's just so many obvious killers on this card, like Shavkat, Valentina Shevchenko, Jon Jones, as you mentioned. So for that reason alone, that's why he's my 2-weight. But if they weren't there, he'd definitely be my 5.
Sure, man, and this is just crazy. Like I would say unprecedented for the UFC, even considering the Bo Nickal is getting his UFC debut in a main card. That's insane, dude. I would have to go back and look and see if there's anyone that has ever fought for the UFC. Of course, he's coming from the Contender Series. I'm talking about strictly his UFC debut, and man, for that to be in a main card of a pay-per-view event, that says something. Dana and Hunter Campbell and all the people over there at the UFC see something in Bo Nickal, and I think it's going to be special. I'm not necessarily saying he could go and be the champion today, right? But I think he's clear and far away better than Jamie Pickett. We're talking about a guy coming off of a pair of losses. And honestly, anytime I see Jamie Pickett step up in competition, he loses, whether that's against Stefan and Chukwui or Jordan Wright back in 2020 and 2021, or last year against Kyle DeKaus and Dennis Talulin. He just can't get it done against the guys that are considered, not the lowest level in the UFC. And at this point, I would comfortably say that Bo Nickal is above the lowest level of the UFC in competition, especially, the quick, easy wins he was able to make in the Contender Series. Of course, like I said, it is his UFC debut, so we haven't seen an insane amount of competition for Bo Nickal yet, and that might be the one thing that holds him back. But Jamie Pickett, as I said, is not a guy that's been able to get wins against his must-win opponents either. So that's why I'm very comfortably taking Bo Nickal here.
Yeah, and without a doubt, Bo Nickal, if you're going to put any bet, honestly, on one guy tonight, it should be Bo Nickal as well, because he actually has so much high-level wrestling experience in terms of not only his accolades, but he's been under the pressure of big packed stadiums. Coming from Penn State, wrestling in the Big Ten, going against schools like Wisconsin and Iowa, you best believe, these are some top-ranked programs, and he has a solid foundation, a great base coming into MMA. He already understands that fighters mentality and cutting weight. So he essentially was preparing his college career for this exact moment. And the only reason is my only worrisome is that why he actually isn't higher, why the other fighters that I mentioned earlier are above him in my weights is because of his experience. Even though that's probably the biggest favorite I've seen since we've covered this show. And yeah, just a 3-0 against a 13-8 guy, Jamie Pickett being 34 years old, I see, even though he is 13-8, he does have that experience. He is older. And I don't think his wrestling is going to compare to Bo Nickal's, but but it can take a clip, that vet experience may kick in, and, he may clip Bo Nickal. He does have 8 knockouts on his record out of his 13 wins. So, everyone gets clipped at some point, and we haven't seen Bo Nickal enough to really see how truly tested his chin is, because both his fights he's had have been just so short. I really want to see him actually get tested and get pushed and take some hard shots. Kind of like when we saw Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley finally. We found out Sean O'Malley can take hard shots, and that's what I want to find out from Bo Nickal.
Yeah, dude, 100% agree. One thing is, though, man, I'm just not sure that's going to come from Jamie Pickett. I agree. Jamie Pickett's shown power. I'm just not sure he's going to be able to deliver that to Bo Nickal's chin. I'm excited to see Bo Nickal's next matchup after sweeping the floor with Jamie Pickett.
All right, yeah. So then there you have it. Both Nick and I, for Bo Nickal, I have him at my 2-weight, and Nick has him at his 5-weight. That should be a fun one, regardless. You safe to say we're both very confident in Bo Nickal, and that leads to my 5-weight now. And my 5-weight, I have another big favorite. I have the man from Kazakhstan. I have Shavkat Rakhmonov. Wow, he's going to, and I have him against Geoff Neal, and right now, for this fight, right now, Shavkat is the betting favorite at -520. So yeah, there are some big favorites on here, and not as big as Bo Nickal again, but Geoff Neal, he is a +350 underdog. And to be honest, I'm surprised he is a underdog as much as he is. He's good. He's a ranked fighter, and he's beating some big names. So I'm interested to see what you have this fight weighted at, Nick.
Yeah, dude, I agree with you on Shavkat. There's no doubt about it. But I actually have my 3-weight, so a little less confident. There's no doubt, though. Shavkat is at a higher level of confidence for me. I think it's a good matchup for him against Geoff Neal, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. I could be wrong, but I think Neil Magny is also an extremely hard opponent. He might have even been a tougher opponent than Geoff Neal. We'll see, though, because Geoff Neal's coming off a couple really impressive wins, specifically against knocking out Vicente Luque. Very impressive to see, for sure. But Shavkat, he is the bigger guy. He's got a couple inches height and reach advantage, and obviously Shavkat's grappling is the main thing that I'm looking at here. I haven't seen Geoff Neal be able to succeed in the UFC against a guy so good as Shavkat at just being able to get on the ground and choke. I mean, 3 or 4 UFC wins, chokes him out. You know what I'm saying? And then he's got the knockout win against Carlston Harris. So definitely confident in Shavkat myself.
Yes, and absolutely, Nick. And I understand maybe not having him as high as Bo Nickal, for example. I am on the opposite hand. I just think that Shavkat is going to pretty much dominate this fight. He's actually a phenomenal striker, and even though he doesn't have as a high striking rate as Geoff Neal throws lands 5.27 significant strikes per minute, while Shavkat does 2.54. He does have clean, crisp, sharp striking, and he's very precise. And when he throws his shots, it's like Khabib and Islam, but I personally think cleaner, and he's not as reckless and wild as Khamzat Chimaev. So I think Shavkat, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this 170-pound weight class. I mean, that spinning kick he did to Carlston Harris was beautiful technique. And then the Neil Magny submitting him. Neil Magny, tall, lengthy dude, and he's a smart guy. He has the most wins in the UFC and for welterweight, and beating a guy like that with his reach advantage and his UFC experience is huge, especially for Shavkat. Like how early he is in his UFC career. He is 16-0, and I just truly think that he's going to dominate Geoff Neal. But Geoff Neal, again, he is a force to be reckoned with. He throws a high volume of striking, and he does have pretty good takedown defense. He has an 85% takedown defense. So if he can actually, I'll be surprised if he can stuff Shavkat, but if he does, I think it's going to be just an overall great fight. I honestly think this actually may be even fight of the night. I think it's going to be a surprise one that's going to really probably stand out from the other ones. I don't know. That's just me personally, but yeah, I got Shavkat as my 5 for this one, Nick.
I hear you, man. I'm really curious to see what ends up happening here. I think you could be onto something about it being fight of the night. We'll see. I will say, I think it's going to be very hard for Shavkat to submit Geoff Neal. I think as good as Neil Magny is, Geoff Neal did beat Neil Magny. I think he's a little bit tougher and a little bit tougher to keep on the ground is what I'm trying to say, and harder to submit. We'll see. He has been submitted in the past, but we have to go all the way back to 2013 to see a day in which Geoff Neal got submitted. So I honestly might might say that this would be a fight I definitely stay away from a specific win decision bet, because this could be the first fight Shavkat sees go to decision, and he could win that decision. I'm confident he will. Three weight, you know what I'm saying? But all I'm saying is Geoff Neal's going to be a very hard guy to knock out and a very hard guy to submit. And I think if anything, Shavkat might just end up using ground control and grapple time to get a decision win in the end.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I agree. You're right. I do think on paper this is probably going to be Shavkat's toughest test. It is pretty close up there with Neil Magny, but yeah, for this one, yeah, it is safe to say, yeah, it's probably one of the closer fights on this card. If not, probably will be the closest. So yeah, for this one, yeah, I don't blame you if you stay safe on it, but I got Shavkat for 5.
Sounds good, man. So then we'll move on to my four weight. So far, we've got a couple of agrees from both Jose and I with different weights on them. And we're going to continue to stick with the lower end of this fight card at UFC 285, because my four weight is going to be Mateusz Gamrot. And honestly, I should probably preface most of what I'm saying with the fact that, Mateusz is personally probably my second favorite UFC fighter behind currently Smish Khamzat Chimaev. But, that might give me a little bit of a bias. But this is going to be super interesting, man. Mateusz is coming off of being of a loss against Dariush, but he's also a short replacement, a short notice or whatever you would say replacement, as Dan Hooker was supposed to be in this spot against Jalin Hooker, and he won't be able to make it. I think it was he broke his hand or his foot or something like that. So it's now Mateusz Gamrot, and honestly, man, one of the big things I'm thinking here is that there's two things. The first thing is that how big of a difference is that when you're planning on fighting Dan Hooker and you switches to Mateusz Gamrot? That's a completely different. I'm just saying, man. Like that's one big thing I'm looking at here. Is Jalin Turner going to be ready for Mateusz Gamrot's ability to wrestle? And I've heard some interviews and seen some media where Jalin Turner seems to be confident, like he's going to try and take downs from the outside, blah blah blah. He thinks he can be quick enough, have the reaction time to defend these takedowns. Honestly, I disagree, man. So that's just one of the main points I have, and just the fact that I think Gamrot is better than Dan Hooker straight up. Maybe that's controversial, maybe it's not. But that being said, I just think Jalin Turner accepting this replacement is kind of bold, and one of the few things going in his favor, in my opinion, is that Gamrot is short notice. But if Gamrot is the guy I think he is, who stays in shape year round and pretty much is game ready year round, it won't matter as much. But before I don't ramble on too much, Gamrot's a minus 235 favorite here. So yet another relatively heavy favorite on this pay per view. Jalin Turner's plus 180. Jose, what do you got for a weight on this fight?
So yeah, for this fight, I have Gamrot, and he's my one weight. And to be honest, I'm also on the verge of even switching over and just having Jalin Turner be my one weight and be my underdog, because I'm liking it. Yeah, it is a short notice fight. And stylistically, it's you have wrestler versus striker. I mean, I like Jalin Turner. He throws 6.48 significant strikes per minute, and he has that 7-inch reach advantage on Mateusz Gamrot. And I don't know, man. Preparing a last minute replacement fight against a guy with that is a dangerous striker and has a long reach advantage. I don't know. I think that's actually. I think there's more risk in Gamrot taking this fight than Jalin Turner, to be honest. Because I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards the underdog now. But like you said, like Gamrot, like he's been phenomenal. We saw him come off that loss to Beneil Dariush, but it was a war. But even then, like in that fight, we showed that he can get cracked. And Jalin Turner, I think he can possibly crack Mateusz and maybe knock him down a few times, maybe not knock him out, but hey, who knows? Maybe even slip a guillotine, man. Again, Brad Riddell, that first round submission. Like you say, I don't think he'll probably get it against Gamrot, but you just never know. Those long limbs, when it comes to grappling, you can sneak in chokes a lot easier and move and get submissions in weird angles just because of how long the limbs are. So I wouldn't count Jalin Turner's submission game out of this one either.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I certainly hope it wasn't what I said that made you think Jalin Turner, because I would heavily disagree. with most of the thoughts on Jalin Turner being in the advantage spot with the switching fights. I could be wrong, of course, and I was on a hot streak last week, but I've had some bad weeks, no doubt about it. I'm just thinking that Mateusz Gamrot here is the better all around fighter. He may not be straight up advantage on the striking, but I don't necessarily think he's at disadvantaged either. He was able to beat Arman Tsarukyan, who everyone wants to talk about. I think Tsarukyan's a top tier fighter, and Jalin Turner is yet to fight anyone even in the same universe as that. I guess Brad Riddell is pretty good, but he ended up choking him out anyways. You're not going to be choking out Mateusz Gamrot. So I don't know, man. He's my full weight for a reason. I've got to be confident in that. And I simply am. I would be happy to put Gamrot and Bo Nickal. I mean, he's not going to do a whole lot, but you got to parlay Bo Nickal because he's just going to be a ridiculously useless individual bet. You're going to have to bet $2,000 to win 100. I mean, come on now, that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to start parlaying with whoever you agree with. I'm not sure if Jose's final choice is to go with Turner there, but there's no doubt about it to me that I'd be happy to bet you against that. But I get it would only be your one weight, so that would mean you're a little less confident. But yeah, to me, Gamrot should be walking out of here no problem with his hand raised.
No, yeah, I hear you. I mean, I still have him as my one weight, but yeah, that's gonna be something maybe moving closer down. I don't know. Just right now, looking at it, that's why I'm saying like Jalin Turner would be a attractive underdog. I have another like yeah, so I'm gonna stick with no, screw it, I'm gonna do this right now. I'm actually gonna go with Jalin Turner just because yeah, most of it yeah, I'm leaning with Jalin Turner, so I would like to go with Jalin Turner for my one weight.
Okay, sounds good. So then we'll move on to your. Well, we've covered my four weight, so now it's your four weight.
So yeah, for my four weight, I actually this is the big guys, the main event, the heavyweight match.
About time.
So yeah, like, and this is right now it's obviously John Jones versus Ciryl Gane. Right now, John Jones he is the betting favorite at minus 166, while Ciryl Gane is the betting underdog at plus 130. So I'll have to tell you right now, straight up, if Jalin Turner doesn't end up becoming my underdog, I guarantee you who will be my underdog. Ciryl Gane. I have Ciryl Gane as my four weight, and I am that confident. I have him that high up. But before I get into it, Nick, I wanna know why what weight you have this fight at.
So I have this one as my two weight, and I have kind of the similar sentiment as how you did with Bo Nickal and that man. If this was just about like any other card, this would be a five weight or a four weight for me because I have a relatively high level of like way more confidence in this than I do usually for my two weight. So it's definitely a little bit of a skewed two weight, but I currently have John Jones. This will be a disagreement for us. I have John Jones as my two weight and an asterisk on that as a very confident two way.
No, I for sure. Yeah, like going into this one, I was leaning towards John Jones, and it's always a threat. My biggest question mark is we haven't seen him in 3 years. Taking that time off, we know he said he wanted to take it slow and gain the weight the right way, which I think is smart. But during that time, I mean, we saw the rise of Ciryl Gane during that time, and he's been active while John Jones has been away. And yes, John Jones has been practicing, and he has put on their butts heavyweights many times in the training room. He's trained with like Alistair Overeem and all these superstars. But Ciryl Gane, like he's been a phenomenal kickboxer. He has phenomenal kickboxing. His feet work he's not gonna be as fast as John Jones, coming from the background John Jones has, but based off the last few fights from John Jones too against Dominic Reyes and Thiago Santos, for example, those were kind of close to call. A lot of people had Dominic Reyes winning the last fight, even though it was unanimous decision, and also the Thiago Santos fight. I kind of was leaning towards Thiago Santos myself in that split decision. Thiago Santos was extremely explosive and fast and wild, but here's the thing: since then, we saw John Jones start to look more mortal, like in terms of like, oh, he's not this great beast he used to be. He's not winning, like he's not finishing people anymore. He's just getting by. He's losing, and people are wondering, like, he didn't look as dominant anymore. But look at his opponents since then. Dominic Reyes has not been doing so well in the UFC, and Thiago Santos is not even in the UFC. And then before that, Anthony Smith, he's still doing his thing, but he's not competed recently. And Alexander Gustafsson, no longer in the UFC. So, and before that, Owen St. Preux, going 5 rounds against Owen. Yeah, that was 2016. But for me, looking at John Jones' career, as he's just been getting older, he's not been really finishing people as much, except for the Alexander Gustafsson fight. So that being said, I don't think he's going to be able to put out Ciryl Gane. It's going to have to be by decision, and he's going to have to use his fight IQ to get that win. But I think Ciryl Gane, I think he has comparable like reach, height, and striking to go toe to toe to decision and even win it against Jon Jones. And if that's if he doesn't crack him and knock him out.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I'd say there's pretty clear argument that Ciryl Gane is the better kickboxer, or at least the more technical boxer. It's going to be fascinating to see, because I think Jon Jones should really be coming into this fight also with more of a wrestling game plan. I think we've seen that Ciryl Gane, especially against the Francis with no knees, there's arguments that you can make both ways for that. But what we saw is that Ciryl Gane got dominated, right? And I think Jon Jones would be smart to go in and try and use that to his advantage. It's whether or not Ciryl Gane will be ready for that and or able to defend it. I get what you're saying about some of the fights with Jon Jones, but to me, it's not as relevant to start looking back at fights that happened, 9, 8, 7 years ago, and even his more recent fight 3 years ago and a couple of weeks now at this point. We're talking about a different human being at this point, and also a guy who's been able to gain and gain and gain. He's been able to go in the weight room and get as strong as he wants. He's been able to go up and I hear some people arguing that, oh, well, he's going to be fighting up at a heavier weight, so he's going to be slower and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I just disagree, man. I think he's a guy that works really hard. And for these last 3 years, what do you think he's been doing? Sitting on his couch? No, he's been improving himself and getting stronger and working with some of the most talented people in the world. I don't know, man. I just think it's clear that Jon Jones is the better athlete of these two guys. And, athleticism doesn't directly correlate in MMA. It's been proven time and time again. It's going to be the difference of, can Jon Jones execute the game plan he's looking to come in and execute? I think he can. And that's kind of the main disagreement, I think, that we will disagree on because, to me, neither guy, I could be wrong, but I don't really see either guy getting a knockout here. Jon Jones is, to me, going to come with a little bit more power, but I still don't think he's going to have the Francis power by any means, and neither will Gane. So to me, this will go into at least the championship rounds. Again, I also don't see a submission, really. I think we're going to see the most technical heavyweight fight that's ever happened in the UFC. I think it's going to be like genuinely highly skilled boxing, footwork, and it's going to be impressive to see from guys that are 265 plus pounds. And I'm just excited to see that, no matter who wins. But that being said, for those reasons, I mean, that's kind of why I have Jon Jones at a 2-weight, because I'm still more confident in Bo winning. But I like Jon Jones a lot in this spot. It's going to be an interesting matchup, but I think if you can execute those wrestling game plans, he'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, for sure. And I couldn't agree with you enough on the Jon Jones needing to capitalize on the wrestling. Jon Jones has phenomenal wrestling, and yeah, he needs to fall back into it and shoot for the takedowns and keep ground and pound him. Maybe like it'd be wild to see Jon Jones get a submission over Ciryl Gane. I would honestly, that'd be I would not have seen that coming, but it is in the realm of possibilities, to be honest. I'm very interested to see how Jon Jones is going to do without his former coach Greg Jackson, who's been with him throughout his entire UFC career, pretty much. So I don't know much about his new coaches and his new team, really, but from like their backgrounds, they all seem like they're pretty good guys, credentials, and he's surrounding himself with the right group of guys. So I'm just interested to see like how they're really going to approach it and see if they'll expose that wrestling like you mentioned. So I'm excited for this one. Yeah, you guys heard that right there. Then I have Ciryl Gane as my 4-weight, and Nick has Jon Jones as his 2-weight.
Yep. So then that will lead us to the final fight on this card that we've yet to discuss, which happens to be my 1-weight. But Jose, I'll let you kick this one off.
So for this fight, it's the women's championship fight against Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso. Right now, Valentina Shevchenko is the betting favorite at minus 670, while Alexa Grasso is the betting underdog at plus 430. For this woman, Valentina Shevchenko, she is my 3-weight. She's been so dominant. She's the best ever behind Amanda Nunes in females, in my opinion. Her kickboxing is probably the best you can see in women's MMA. She has phenomenal power. It's ridiculous. But before I get too much into it, I want to know what weight do you have this fight at, Nick?
Yeah, so this is my one weight. Valentina, a very heavy favorite. The second heaviest favorite on this main card, I believe. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what you said about her kickboxing, I think Valentina's kickboxing alone could carry her through most of the fighters in the entire division. Um, I'm just curious to see. I would have a little less confidence because I do feel like Valentina is going to end up running into the same problems Amanda Nunes ran into, age being part of it, and just the fact that some of these younger girls are just killers. I mean, we saw it with Aaron Blanchfield last weekend, a fight, or not last weekend, but the weekend. But I was wrong about that. I honestly, what can be said at that point? You just got to accept that Aaron Blanchfield, some of these younger fighters are really good, man. And it kind of makes me nervous. I think Alexa Grasso is impressive. I think one technical thing that gives me a concern is that Valentina is very good at counter striking, and she almost seems to like fighters who are going to try and swing for the home run hits. And Valentina's like, oop, out of the way, and then gives a quick counter, boom, you're out. And I don't think you're going to see that from Grasso. It's going to be much more technical, much more like trying to find openings. I think Shevchenko fights with a little bit less like personal into it. I guess with the like I don't know how to word that correctly in the sense that like you can't really grind, you can't get to her mental as well as you might be able to get to some other girls. So that's one thing that would make me support, and that's kind of why I still lean Shevchenko here. But I don't want to take too much away from Grasso. I really think this is going to be a pretty good and close fight. By no means to me should this be a plus 430 underdog for Grasso. I mean, I'm not going to be putting any of my money there, but I'm crazy if I'm not thinking about it. I think because we will see the end of Shevchenko's run at some point within the next couple of years, in my opinion, like this year or next year. It's just going to be a matter of who.
Yeah, Nick, I couldn't agree with you any more on that. Just running like being dominant for so long. Yeah, there comes the hole at the end of the tunnel, I guess. And Alexa Grasso, she almost stylistically, matchup wise, they're almost identical in every type of way in terms of both are 5'5", both have similar reach advantage, and both are heavy strikers. And Alexa Grasso, she even though Valentina Shevchenko is more well known for her kickboxing, Alexa Grasso has phenomenal boxing, Mexican style boxing. She stays really tight in the pocket, and that's why she has a 5.14 significant strikes per minute. She won't throw as many kicks as Valentina Shevchenko. Her kicks aren't as powerful, but on the feet, like she may be able to clip Valentina Shevchenko, and Alexa has a chin. She has never been knocked out in her career, while Valentina Shevchenko has at least once in her career been knocked out. So there's always that, if you guys are looking at her as your underdog. But yeah, it's going to be a close, tight one. But that being said, like I'm gonna lean. Yeah, I'm gonna stay with Valentina. She's just been so dominant, and I don't know yet if Alexa Grasso will be the girl to beat her. But you never know. We saw Juliana Pena be Amanda Nunes, and this is very much in the realm of possibilities, especially now. There's just a big fan presence in Mexico and just the Mexican fan base with Yair Rodriguez recently winning the title and Brandon Moreno being champ as well. It's no doubt that the UFC is kind of pushing for a female Mexican champ, because I've also heard, like, I think Irene Aldana is going to be challenging Amanda Nunes too for her strap. So you can see the push the UFC is going for right now, and now's the time to do it. So, and I think Alexa Grasso knows that for her to become champion, it has to be pretty like soon, like now, or I don't want to say never, but she has been in the UFC already for quite some time, and like everyone, she's only getting older. So for this one's gonna be a tight one, but yeah, I have Valentina Shevchenko as my three weight.
Yeah, dude, this might be one where I kind of start to lean the other way personally. Like you had with Jalen Turner. Um, Yeah, man. I think even looking at it, man, Grasso's last fight was a main event fight with 5 rounds. She went 25 minutes, man. That's another thing I always get weary about when fighting Shevchenko because of all of her experience in these championship fights, fight after fight. She's finished some but a lot of her fights go to the full 5 rounds, and Shevchenko can keep going. And it seems to me that so can Grasso. She was able to get the decision win against Viviana Rojo. 5 minutes, full 5 minute fight. I mean, that definitely bodes even better, in my opinion, for Grasso, proving that she has the conditioning to go the distance if needed with Shevchenko.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Alexa Grasso, extremely tough. The only thing I actually looking more into it too, though, is that I kind of makes me feel more confident going with Valentina Shevchenko. And you kind of alluded to it too, is just like the level of competition Valentina's gone against. I mean, when you're champion, you're just continuously going against the number one contender. And I mean, when you look at like her beating Jessica Andrade, Caitlin Chokagian, Jessica I, Joanna Jacek, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, a lot of big names, some bigger girls there too. So yeah, again, the time does come for everyone, but I'm still going to stick with Valentina Shevchenko.
All right, well, there you have it. Our 5 picks for UFC 285. We're both very excited to see this play out. And in the end, we only disagreed. In the end, we almost actually disagreed on 3. I mean, I will say, I'll go so far as to say that I'm not making any bets on Valentina. If I am making a bet on that fight, I'm going to toss some money on Grasso because of the return there. There's no way I'm putting Shevchenko on a parlay, and there's no way I'm betting Shevchenko on a single money line bet. So that being said, that fight's going to be off my books unless it's a Grasso money line bet. I'm also not putting Grasso on a parlay either. That's a little bit risky, some risk I'm not willing to take, but you guys feel free to let us know what you'll be doing in the comments down below. Other than that, we did end up disagreeing on the Jalin Turner and Mateusz Gamrot fight, with Jose switching to Jalin Turner. So that's 2 disagreements and a tentative third, even though if I had to make a pick, I'd still pick Shevchenko. So that being said, thank you guys for listening, and definitely keep remembering to follow us on Twitter at Moneyline MMA. Our picks on there were perfect last week. So if you want to keep seeing some perfect picks, you're going to need to follow that account and check it out on Saturday afternoon right before the main card starts. Otherwise, have a great week. We're going to have 2 pay-per-view events this month, guys. So definitely make sure to put a bell on our page so you can get our videos when they come out for the upcoming fights this month.